In response to COVID-19, PSP is offering telefitness to Canadian Armed Forces members. By using social media platforms, the telefitness classes tailored to Canadian Armed Forces personnel become accessible to all. Prior to participating in this session, and to make an informed decision on whether you should seek advice from a qualified exercise professional or healthcare provider, consult the Get Active questionnaire of the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology and its reference document by clicking on the links below. By continuing with this telefitness class, you understand that there is a possibility of physical injury and you agree that you do so voluntarily at your own risk. You also assume all risk of injury and agree to release the Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services from any and all claims related to your participation in this telefitness class.
Hi everyone, my name is Deidre and I am a military fitness and sports instructor from Petawawa. Today I'm going to be leading you through a flow-inspired yoga class. Take it at your own pace, rest if you need to, and let's get started. For today's class, we're going to get started on our backs. So coming down onto your back, find a nice comfortable position, letting the arms and legs go out nice and long. Let your toes roll open to either edge of the mat, opening up through the hips. Arms can be down beside your body or opening up into more of a T shape. And your palms can be facing up towards the ceiling. Make a couple small adjustments here so that you're able to nestle into your mat and get comfortable. Let your shoulder blades sink down into the mat. Option to close down the eyes. And trying to keep a nice long line from the tailbone to the crown of your head. So slightly tucking the chin into your chest. And then just observing your body in this still position. Noticing if you're still fidgeting or if you are still. And starting to come and focus towards your breath. Trying to take nice deep inhale breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. On your inhale breath, trying to expand your rib cage 360 degrees. And as you exhale, trying to deflate the ribs. And then moving through that process again a few more times. If possible here, try to match your exhale with your inhale breath. So if it takes you 3 or 4 counts to inhale, try to exhale just as long. Keeping this controlled breath throughout your practice. Slowly start to bend your knees and plant your feet on the mat, centering the hips if needed. And then you're going to hug both knees into your chest, coming into a little ball. Option to stay still here or come through a small rock from side to side, massaging through the low back. Coming back through stillness if you've decided to rock. And then keeping your right knee tucked in, you're going to extend your left leg straight up to the ceiling. From here, you're going to flex both toes back towards your shin, and then slowly lowering that left leg down to the mat so your heel can rest. But keep that activeness through that foot. Pulling the right knee nice and close to your body. Keeping with the breath. From here, you're going to bend through the left knee and plant the foot on the floor. And then grabbing behind the hamstring of the right leg, you're going to extend your leg straight up to the ceiling. Trying to keep your shoulder blades nestling down into the mat and keeping that active foot. If this feels good for you, option to extend that left leg straight back out towards the floor. And then option to stay here or slowly walk the hands up your right leg, keeping your chin tucked into your chest. Option maybe grabbing at the ankle or the top of the foot, whatever is accessible for you. Slowly starting to lower back down. And then if you've if you've straightened that left leg, you're gonna rebend and plant the foot and come through figure four. So right ankle crosses on top of left knee. Option to stay here with your left foot planted or taking the hands to interlace behind the left hamstring to create a more active stretch. So start to create some resistance between the right ankle and left leg. Pushing the right foot into the leg and vice versa. If you've elevated that left foot, slowly plant the foot down towards the mat. Releasing the hands, arms are going to come out in a T shape, palms are facing up. Fully cross your right leg over your left leg. Hips are going to move over to the right, and your knees are going to fall down to the left. Keeping your gaze straight up at the ceiling. Keep coming back to that breath. Legs start to come back through center as you uncross them, squaring off the hips, adjusting so that you're square to the mat again. And then hug both knees back into your chest. Option to stay still or come through small rocks from side to side. If you've decided to rock, coming back through center. And then this time you're going to keep your left knee tucked in and extend that right leg straight up towards the ceiling. Again, flexing both toes back towards your shins. And then slowly lowering down with that right leg to let the heel rest on the floor. Keeping this left knee hugged in nice and close towards your body. And then bending again to that right leg, planting the foot on the floor, and then you're going to extend the left leg straight up towards the ceiling. Again, if this feels okay for you, option to straighten that right leg out. And then option to crawl the hands up the left leg, grabbing onto the ankle or the top of the foot, whatever is accessible for you. Keeping the chin tucked into your chest. Slowly lowering back down. If you've straightened the right leg, rebending and planting the foot back to the mat, and then coming through figure four, left side. Left ankle, right knee, and then option to elevate that right foot and intertwine your hands behind the right hamstring. Creating that resistance again through the left foot and the right leg. Creating that force of pushing one into another. And then starting to release the hands. Right foot comes back to the mat if you've lifted it up, fully crossing the left leg over top of the right. Hips are going to move to the left this time, and your knees are going to fall down to the right. Gaze is going to stay up for the ceiling. Chin is slightly tucking to the chest. Knees slightly and slowly coming back through center as you uncross them and recenter your hips. Hug both knees into your chest. option to rock side to side. And then coming through happy baby. You're going to take your forearms to the inside of your knees. Bend your knees as much as you need to grab onto the outer edges of your feet. And then sending your feet up for the ceiling, keeping those toes flexed back for the shins. If you feel like this is a bit too much of a reach for you, you can always grab for the ankles or the calves, whatever is most comfortable for you. Releasing your feet, your legs are going to come up so that your legs are straight, and then you're going to grab behind the hamstrings and start to slowly rock up and down the spine a few times until you can come into a seated position. Crossing your legs and then planting your hands at the top of your mat, we're going to flip over into a tabletop position. Hips and knees are bent at 90 degrees. Your wrists should be stacked underneath your shoulders. Fingers are widespread. And there's a neutral line that goes from your tailbone to the crown of your head. Keeping your gaze in between your thumbs. You're going to start by dropping the belly down and extending the gaze up towards the ceiling. Firmly pressing through the palms of your hands. And then starting to tuck the chin into your chest, rounding through the back. Drop the belly, extend the gaze. Tuck the chin around the back. Drop the belly, extend the gaze. Tuck the chin around the back. Two more times, drop the belly, extend the gaze. Tuck the chin around the back. Drop the belly, extend the gaze. Tuck the chin, rounding the back. And then coming through a neutral spine. You're going to take your right arm and reach up towards the ceiling. And then threading the needle, right arm comes towards the left side of the body, letting your right ear plant to the floor. Firmly pressing through the left hand to create more of a dynamic stretch. Trying to keep your hips square towards the back of the mat. Pressing through the left hand, press up, open up, and then planting the right hand to the floor. Same thing, other side, left hand reaches up for a twist, and then threading the needle, left arm comes down towards the right side of the body, firmly pressing through that right hand. Firmly pressing through that right hand, press up, open up, and then planting the hand down on the mat. Keeping your left hand planted, you're going to spin onto your left toes so that they're off your mat, and then reaching your right foot back towards the back of the mat, reaching up, coming into a variation of side plank. Try to press your hips forward here so that you're not losing that openness through both side waists of the body. Reaching up nice and tall, trying to create a T with your arms. So try not to reach back too much here. Maybe take a peek up at your top fingertips just to see that you're reaching straight up towards the ceiling. From here, top arm is going to reach up and over the head, fingertips pointing towards the front of the mat here. And then top arm is going to slightly swing down to plant the hand at the top of the mat. Left toes pivot back, right toes step forward, coming back into that tabletop position. Switching to the other side, same thing. Right toes off the mat, stepping the left foot back as we open up into that variation of side plank. Pressing the hips forward. Again, try not to reach back, reaching up. Take a look at those top fingertips. And then extending that arm overhead, creating a big opening through the side body. And then arm slowly starts to reach down for the mat, squaring off the shoulders and hips to the front of the mat. Firmly pressing the palms into the floor, toes are tucked under. You're going to shift your hips up and back for your first downward facing dog. Option 2, slightly pedal out through the legs one at a time. Maybe throw in a small twist. Right arm can reach over towards left calf, and then you're going to look under your left armpit. Hand will place back down, switching to the other side, sweeping and looking under the right armpit this time. Hand places towards the front of the mat. And then movements become smaller and smaller, coming into a still position. Palms are firmly pressing into the mat, fingers are widespread. Gaze is at your knees or your belly button. Heels are reaching for the mat. If they don't touch, that's okay. But think of the heels pressing back, pressing your chest back towards your thighs. Gaze is going to come forward between the thumbs. You're going to bend your knees as much as you need to take small steps towards the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, coming through flat back. Palms can be planted here. You can tent up on your fingertips or bring your hands to your shins. Whatever works best for you. Exhale, forward fold, bringing the crown of the head towards the floor, looking through the hole between your legs. Slightly bend your knees and slowly roll all the way up to a standing position, leaving the arms down to the sides of the body. When you come to a standing, you're going to roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Taking a breath in and a breath out. Inhale, reaching your arms up and overhead. Exhale, swan dive down, hands plant to the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, choose your option. Exhale, planting the palms to the mat, right foot steps back, left foot steps back, holding in our plank. Press the heels to the back of the room. Wrists are stacked underneath the shoulders. Gazes between the thumbs. Slowly shift your shoulders in front of your wrists and then lower down to a hover or all the way. Inhale to pull the chest forward, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck the chin to the chest, downward facing dog. Holding here for 3 breaths. 2, 1. Gaze comes to the front of the mat. Bend the knees. Right foot steps forward. Left foot steps forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, rise all the way up through standing. Exhale, arms float down. 4 more times just like that. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, left foot steps back, followed by the right, holding in your plank. Lowering down all the way here to hover. Inhale, pulls the chest forward for cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, tuck the chin, downward facing dog. Holding for 2. 1. Gaze comes forward, slight bend in the knees, left foot travels forward first, followed by the right. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling to fold. Inhale brings you all the way up. Exhale, hands float down. 3 more. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to step back, right foot followed by the left, holding in your plank. Slowly lowering down, and then pulling the chest forward, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Holding for 2. 1. Gaze comes forward, bending the knees, step the right foot forward, followed by the left. Inhale for your half lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, rises all the way up. Exhale, arms float down. 2 more, just like that. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, forward fold, moving a little bit quicker. Inhale, half lift. Exhale to step back, left followed by right. Right away, lowering down all the way to hover. Inhale to pull the chest forward. Exhale, downward facing dog. Holding for 3. 2. Last one. Gaze comes forward, bending to the knees. Left foot travels first, followed by the right. Inhale for your half lift. Exhale for folding. Inhale, rising all the way up. Exhale, arms float down. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale to fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to step or jump back. If you're gonna jump back, landing in the bottom of the push-up. Inhale, pull the chest forward. Exhale, brings you to your downward facing dog. Last breath in. Last breath out. Inhale to travel to the top of your mat, coming into your halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, rising all the way up. Exhale, arms float down. Moving through a variation of Sun Salutation B. Bending your knees, sink your hips, arms are gonna reach up and overhead. Gazes forward. Keeping with the breath. Exhale to plant the hands down at the top of the mat. Option to stay in your forward fold or come through a practice of crow. You're gonna come up onto your tiptoes. Fingers are widespread, gazes forward. Slowly starting to lean into your arms. Option to come up into a crow practice. Think of rolling your knees to your inner arms. You may just be staying down with the toes on the floor, practicing the lean forward. You may bring one foot up. You may bring both feet up. Whatever you choose, just think of where will you go next. Keep practicing where you are now. Option to step or float back. Inhale, pulls the chest forward. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right foot rises. Bend the knee so that your heel comes towards your butt. And then rolling forward, step the foot to the top of the mat. Inhale, rising up, crescent lunge. Keep the hips square to the front of the mat. Try to pull your left hip forward and your right hip back. Exhale, hands are gonna plant to the mat. You're gonna step back, moving through your vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. This time, left foot rises. Bend the knee, rolling forward. Step the foot through at the top of the mat. Inhale, slowly rises up. Again, this time we're gonna pull the right hip forward, left hip back, squaring through those hips. Exhale to plant the hands, stepping back, lowering through your vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. Gaze comes forward, bend the knees, step the right foot forward, followed by the left. Inhale for a half lift. Exhale to fold. And then bending the knees, sinking the hips, arms are gonna sweep up and overhead, coming through chair. Exhale, arms are gonna float down as you stand up. One more time, just like that. Bend your knees, sink your hips, arms are gonna come up and overhead. Exhale, plant the hands, and then coming through your options. So stay in your forward fold, keeping both feet on the floor with your heels lifted, elevating one foot, elevating both feet. But think of always looking forward in front of you. If you look down, you're gonna fall down. So think of looking forward. Option 2, step or float back. Inhale to pull the chest forward. Exhale, downward facing dog. Right foot rises, bend the knee, rolling forward, step the foot through at the top of the mat. Inhale to rise up. Exhale, hands are gonna plant. Step back, move through your vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. Left foot rises, bend the knee, rolling forward, step the foot through at the top of the mat. Inhale to come up, squaring off those hips. Exhale, hands plant, stepping back, moving through your vinyasa. Again, meeting in downward facing dog. Gaze comes forward, bending through the knees, left foot steps forward, followed by the right. Inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale, bend your knees, sink your hips, coming through chair. Exhale, arms float down as you straighten the legs. Bend your knees, sink your hips, arms are rising up and overhead. Exhale, fold and straighten your legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, planting the hands, right foot steps back, followed by the left. Moving through your vinyasa, meeting in your downward facing dog. Right foot rises up and back. Bend the knee, rolling forward, step the foot through at the top of the mat. Inhale to lower the back knee down. Keeping the toes tucked under, we're gonna rise up into a low lunge. Again, squaring off those hips. You wanna pull the left hip forward, right hip back. Exhale, hands are gonna plant to the top of the mat. Keeping the back toes tucked under, you're gonna roll back into a half split. Inhale to roll forward. Exhale, roll back. Inhale, coming forward. Exhale, coming back. Inhale, last time coming forward. Exhale to come back and hold. Gaze can be at your big toe or your shin. Try to keep your hips as square to the front of the mat as you can here. Inhale to roll forward. Keeping your back toes tucked under, you're gonna pick up the knee and then open for a twist towards your right knee. Just like before in our side plank, think of reaching up instead of back. Hand plants underneath the shoulder. You're gonna power up through that back leg. You might need to take it in a step, depending on how you're feeling with the stability. And then you're gonna curl your fingertips out in front of your head and then power up to the front leg, lifting up into half split. Think of keeping your knee and your toes of the left leg facing towards the floor. Slowly start to bend through that right leg and plant the left toes back to the back of the mat. Inhale to reach up, coming through that crescent lunge. Inhaling and exhaling. Opening up, warrior two. Arms are gonna reach out to either side of the body, palms are facing down, back foot pivots 90 degrees. Front palm flips up, back hand is gonna reach in front of the body as you reach up and overhead, coming through a variation of peaceful warrior. Inhale to reach back forward, warrior two. Front forearm comes to front knee. Top arm is gonna reach up and over the body, just like we did in our variation of side plank. Try not to dump all your weight into this front knee. Your arms should be able to hover off of the leg. Coming back through warrior two. Hinge forward as much as you need to and as much as you can until you can reach down for the floor. From here, your back leg is going to start to get a little bit lighter as your front leg powers up. You're going to drag your back toes along the mat until you can lift them up, coming through a variation of half moon. Top arm is reaching straight up. Hips are pressing forward. Slowly starting to bend to that front leg. Back foot finds the back of the mat. Arms are going to sweep up and overhead. Back hand comes to the low back, finding variation of peaceful warrior. Inhale to come through warrior two. Hands are going to cartwheel towards the front of the mat. Back toes pivot to face forward. You're going to step your front foot back. Move through your vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. Left foot rises up and back. Bend the knee, starting to roll forward, planting the foot at the top of the mat. Back knee is going to drop down to the floor, and then arms are going to reach up as you inhale. Again, squaring the hips. Right hip pulls forward, left hip pulls back. Hands are going to plant to the top of the mat, keeping the back toes tucked under. You're going to shift your weight back, coming through a variation of half split. Inhale pulls you forward. Exhale, half split. Inhale forward. Exhale, half split. Inhale forward. Exhale, half split. One more time forward. Exhale, half split. And then holding here, gazes at the big toe or the shin. Trying to keep your hips as square as you can here. Inhale to pull the chest forward. Back toes are still tucked under. You're going to pick up the back knee, opening up for a twist towards that left knee. Again, reaching up instead of back. Hand plants underneath the shoulder, starting to power up to that front leg. Hands are going to come out in front of the head, and then powering up, drag the back toes, coming through half split. Standing half split. Taking a peek at your toes, of your right leg, making sure that they're facing towards the floor. Knee is facing the floor. If your knee and toes are facing out, you're going to be opening through the hips. So think of turning them both down. Slowly bend through that front knee. Back toes find the back of the mat. Inhale to rise up into Crescent Lunge. Opening up warrior two, back foot pivots 90. Arms are reaching out long to either side of the body. Coming through a variation of peaceful warrior. Back hand's gonna reach down and in front of the body. Front hand is gonna reach up and overhead. Coming back through warrior two. Side angle. Reaching the top arm up and overhead. Again, you should be able to move this bottom hand, just lightly resting. Coming back through warrior two. And then hinging forward as much as you can, then reaching down for the floor in front of your head. Back toes are slowly going to graze the floor as you slightly get lighter and lighter, and then power off that front leg coming through half moon. Slowly start to bend through the front knee, back toes find the back of the mat. Inhale to reach up and overhead, back hand to the low back. Coming through warrior two. Pausing here. Hands are going to cartwheel to the front of the mat, back toes pivot. Step your front foot back. Pulling the chest forward, moving through your vinyasa, meeting in downward facing dog. From here, either coming down to the knees and then coming into a seated position, or you can try a little hop, slight bend in the knees, and then cross your legs as you land at the top of the mat. Taking your legs out in front of you, you're going to bend through the knees and then slowly start to lower down onto your back. So try not to just let yourself drop down. You want to reach the fingertips forward, forward, forward. Slowly come down. Control. When you get down to the floor, you're going to hug both knees into your chest. Feet are going to plant down to the mat, reaching for the heels, making sure that your feet are hip distance apart. Toes are pointing forward. You should be able just to touch your heels with your fingertips. Pressing your palms into the floor. As we inhale, we're going to lift the hips up and hold for 5. Think of engaging through the core, tucking the chin into your chest, lightly squeezing the glutes, rolling the inner thighs down for the floor, holding for 2. 1. As you exhale, lower down to the floor. Option to stay there or come through the second variation. We'll inhale together. Exhale. As you inhale this time, press the hips up. Stay with variation 1, or taking the hands to interlace underneath your back and rolling your shoulder heads in. You're going to pull your hands down towards your heels. Slightly toning the glutes, holding for 3 more. Last one in. And as you exhale, slowly starting to come back down. Staying with variation 1 or 2. Take a breath in together. Exhale. Inhale, rising up and choosing your variation. Holding. Holding for 3. Try to send those glutes up a little bit higher. 2. Last inhale. And as you exhale, lowering down. Pausing for a moment. You're going to bend your knees and bring your legs up into a 90-degree position. You're going to take your right leg and cross it over top of your left leg. Kind of like you're tying up your legs together. From here, if this feels like enough for you, you're trying to force your legs together, you can stay here. Or you can try to grab onto the ankles of either leg. If possible, you can grab to the feet as well. Whatever is accessible to you. Keeping both hips even on the floor. And then planting the left foot down, you'll fully finish the cross if your legs weren't fully crossed. Move the hips over to the right and drop your knees down to the left. This time, gaze can stay towards the ceiling or come over your right shoulder. An option to take left hand to right outer thigh. Slowly releasing the arm if you've decided to hold the leg. Gaze comes back through center, uncrossing the legs as you bring your hips back through center. And then bringing both legs back up to that 90-degree position. This time crossing the left over top of the right. This is enough for you staying here, squeezing the legs together, or grabbing on to ankles or feet, whatever is accessible for you. Slowly releasing, right foot comes down to the floor, arms are coming into a T. If your legs weren't fully crossed, make sure they are now. Hips are moving to the left, knees are dropping down to the right. Gaze is able to stay up at the ceiling or coming over your left shoulder. And then option to take that right arm onto the outer left thigh. Slowly releasing the leg if you've held on. Gaze comes back through center. Start to uncross the legs as your legs come back through center, squaring off the hips. Knees are going to come back in towards the chest. And then taking the bottoms of your feet together, you're going to grab onto the outer edges with your hands, creating a big opening through the inner thighs. Try to pull your legs into as close as you can. And then holding on to the outer edges of both feet or ankles, you're going to open up through Happy Baby. Slowly releasing both legs as they come up towards the ceiling. Arms are opening up into a T, and then slowly relaxing one leg to the floor at a time as we come through our final resting position. Closing down the eyes, keeping the breath fluent. Toes are rolling open to either edge of the mat. Arms are down on either side of your body or open into a T. Palms are facing up, softening through the face. Shoulders are melting into the mat. And returning to your own rhythm of breath. Start to make small movements in the fingers and the toes. Maybe rolling out through the wrists and or the ankles. Hug the knees into the chest one last time, and then curling the forehead up to meet the knees. Releasing the head back down to the floor, and then coming up through a seated position at the top of your mat. Eyes are closed, gaze is down at the floor, keeping a nice long line through the back of the neck. Inhale to reach your arms up and overhead, gaze comes to look at the thumbs. Exhale, hands are going to float down towards chest center. And again, gaze is following the top of the fingertips. Take a nice deep inhale breath. Exhale, rolling the shoulders up, back, and down. I thank you all for practicing with me today. Thank you guys for practicing with me. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I hope you all enjoy.